Hi, I'm Lynn of Geek Saga Entertainment, here with my co-host Manny for a new-ish episode concept that we are calling Media That Made Us Cringe. This particular concept will probably be a one-time miniseries. Essentially, it's based on our 90s and Naughties Cringe Factor series, but at least for what we'll be covering in this miniseries of episodes, it has a touch of that media that made us feel, for me at least anyway, which I did explain some in the first episode of this little miniseries.
So I'm Manny, and for this Media That Made Us Cringe episode, we're continuing with the fifth and final Twilight series movie, Breaking Dawn Part 2, based on the post-Rename Me Birth / Bella is Now a Vampire climax of Breaking Dawn by Stephenie Meyer.
As stated in our previous Twilight series discussions, these books and movies are so famous / infamous that we don't think we need to summarize anything. And again, while this series, miniseries, whatever, is about how these movies and, in my case, books, hence the media that made us part and the fact that they made me hate vampire stuff for a long time comes in. You know, again, as we previously stated and will continue to state, we are totally here for everybody liking what they like, loving what they love. Just because we don't feel it with this series does not mean that we aren't all for you enjoying it if that is a thing you do. Now, we kicked off our Breaking Dawn Part 1 episode with a brief discussion of whether or not that movie felt bloated, since these two movies are from the two halves-ish of a single book. And I, having read the books and seen the movies, definitely feel like both of these Breaking Dawn movies could have been a good bit shorter, but I'm not sure I'd want to, or maybe even be able to, sit through one very long movie that combined even most of what happens in them. And as for Manny, you touched on how Part 1 definitely felt bloated to you, and also mentioned that it felt like a lot of fan service, which I completely agreed with. It was just whether or not, is it fan service for the fans, or is it Stephenie Meyer's own fan service, like for herself and for Edward and Bella? But now that you've watched Part 2, I need to hear your thoughts on whether you still feel the same about how maybe they could have made it into one really long movie, and of course any additional thoughts, if you have them, I'm sure you have, about the fan service aspects.
Okay, so my thoughts here on this is, after watching this one, I felt like the last movies should have been 3 or 4 movies, and they should have broken it up to where there was more of a buildup towards this ending scene, because I feel like in this one, things went too fast. I do see now, like how you had mentioned in the last one, that this split made sense, and it absolutely does. The way that these two movies are broken down, yes. Anything in this movie needs to stay in this movie, anything in the last one needs to stay in the last one. However, when it comes to a sense of pacing in this movie, I feel like they really got it wrong. And I feel like if they would have made the first movie, they really could have made the first movie, unbloated it a bit, and used more of that time for like a build up to what the fight scene was and everything in this film. And I felt like it would have been a little more impactful. So when I was watching this, I thought for a second, I was like, you know, this probably would have been much better as a series than it would a series of movies. Because with the first 3 movies, okay, those could be their own independent stuff. But with this one here, I felt like there was a lot more added to it and a lot more things going on that I was like, you guys really should have either made this into like a 4-movie series or just went ahead and made it into a series, right? And when I thought about it, this would have been really good. The Twilight series I feel would have been better to be as a television series. And then when you get to the climax, make that into its own movie, similar to like how Stargate did, and do something like that. And I think it probably would have, at least they could have done more with the pacing on it.
I don't disagree about the fact that it could have been a 5-6 season TV series. Really 4 seasons. They could have done a 4-season TV series, 4 season for each book, even if it was 6 episodes each, and then they were all an hour or less, or even combine some of the earlier books. I don't know, but yeah, I agree. And what I was looking up was the True Blood air date, because I knew it aired at the aughts, and it did. It was September 2008 was when it first aired, and Buffy had obviously already been on TV for a long time, so you can't even give it, because for a second I was like, well, maybe we could say that, okay, well, genre TV hadn't really taken off. Like, we hadn't had Walking Dead, we hadn't had Game of Thrones yet, and those are what really pushed genre TV into like a more mainstream, oh shit, we can actually make money off of this situation that the networks and or the streaming services wanted to see, needed to see. But yeah, I mean, we had Buffy for a long time and it was a huge hit. We had Angel after that, which also did really well. And then of course, yeah, True Blood was gigantic almost from the start. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit weird that they went with, I guess maybe they were thinking because it was YA and that was like, oh, well, it's YA. This has to be movies. But this was even before Hunger Games. You could argue that Buffy is YA, honestly. It takes place with high school students.
Yeah, I think this would have benefited more to being released nowadays, right? Because the one thing we notice about TV series today, as opposed to back then, is that they put a lot more huge budget into television series now, which is why we get 8 episodes instead of the 24 episodes that we used to get for those TV things. So if they were going to use the same amount of budget or more into like a television series and make each season 8 to 10 episodes, I feel like Twilight could have been a good series, right? Because I think the problem with a lot of this series is that it doesn't have a build up. It's on or off. It goes from one thing, boom, to the next. And it's like,
my God, we could have had an entire episode each of the backstories of all of the Cullens instead of the forcing their backstories on us in odd situations for most of them. Maybe Edward would have told Bella about his murderous past prior to the night before they got married.
Exactly. Or I don't know, you could have had sequences with him and Bella and he's like, oh, I'm so happy. And he's sleeping by himself and he's having flashback nightmares of all the stuff he did and built that up for an entire season until he says, hey, boom, this is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Like
this. I get these vampires don't sleep, but I feel like they have to rest sometimes. Maybe not physically, they don't have to rest, but wouldn't you just want to like rest your brain, your eyes, like meditate something?
They could have literally just had Edward sitting on the toilet and just having flashbacks, honestly. And I felt like the buildup would it's about the buildup.
Okay, well, we will begin our discussion with our usual cringe factor lists of 10 things we hate about this movie. Then we are pulling from our media that made us format to talk about bling sites, aka any personal insights we glean from watching Breaking Dawn Part 2. And we call that section bling sites because a while ago I heard some Twilight fans refer to the vampires in the series as the blings because they sparkle, you know. And I do find that amusing. I thought that was I don't know who came up with it, but kudos to them. So I find it amusing. And then we'll also go ahead and rate the movie on a cringe factor scale of 1 to 10 spark dolls before concluding with our watch/read/play please anything but this suggestion for the episode. Before we get started, you can follow me and therefore all of the Geek Saga endeavors at a Geek Saga on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube.
And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Benissimo Art.
Just a couple quick house cleaning items before we dig in. We, of course, want to say thank you so much for listening to our show and also mention that we could really use some more ratings, especially on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and would super very much greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment to mark the Geek Saga Podcast 5 stars wherever you're listening. Last, but hopefully not least, we hope that you'll check out the Geek Saga Entertainment Patreon. We have a lot of tiers with just $3 per month, getting you the most prevalent perk of early access to podcast episodes. Check it out at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.
And ladies and gentlemen, now it is time for the 10 things we hated about this movie. First up is...
Of course, Bella has all the superpowers. Okay, guys, come on. Mary Sue. Yep. Not only is she a shield, and not only, as we learn later, can she project her shield, and she learns to do this super fast, by the way. 1 second, she's like, oh, I can only like push it out a tiny bit. And then the next like hour, she's encompassing the whole fucking Cullen household or something. So she can do this to protect others, and she learns to do it from nothing to being super powerful at it very, very quickly. But then also, as soon as she becomes a vampire, she's immediately able to turn away from human blood. Literally, she wakes up as a vampire. Edward's like, ooh, you got to go hunting before we visit little rename me over here. So he takes her hunting. There's a human climbing an impossibly gigantic rock face. I know people actually do this. The idea of anybody wanting to do that for fun is beyond me. I am afraid of heights. That's part of it. But also, it's not even just the height. Even if I wasn't afraid of heights, I think I have too much of self-preservation in me to be doing that. But anyway, and Edward's like, oh God, didn't know there would be a person all the way out here. But the guy cuts himself and Bella runs after him. And Edward's like, whoa, Bella, you got to back off. And Bella's like, oh gosh, yeah, get me out of here. But then she like just jumps off the cliff and runs away. No newborn vampire would have ever done that. They're all shocked that she's able to do this. And then, well, I get her being able to not go after Jacob because he smells like wet dog or whatever to the vampires, or little resurrected rune words over here, who's her own baby. Bella being able to sit there with Charlie like days after she wakes up is just too much. I'm glad for Charlie's sake that this worked out, but too much, y'all. Too much.
Too
Super
much.
Bella.
Again, this is one of those things that's just a product of trying to like sum up everything very quickly. This is one of those things that made me think about it. Her developing her powers and stuff. This would have benefited more if it was a longer span of time going on to where she has trial and error. She has like trying to figure it out. But even when they were trying to like motivate her and they're like shocking the shit out of fucking Edward, like there was no danger there for her to really, you know what I'm saying? And even when she kind of half threatened it with her daughter, like whatever, it was just like, yeah, but you're not going to do anything. Like, come on, dude. There needed to be a more serious kind of threat, I feel, for, and maybe they could have written something in there like that. That would, and then been like, oh, okay, you fucking jumped that wall and now you're able to use these powers the way you were because you were in an actual situation as opposed to this weird pseudo training session or whatever. Again, if that's how it was in the books, then that's bad writing to begin with. And then for it to be in the movie, I understand they have like a limited capacity, but maybe this is something that should have been tackled in the first part of this movie if you were able to make it work in the first part of the movie. So that way, again, the buildup, because that's what this movie doesn't have for anything, is fucking buildup.
Yeah. And yes, it is like this in the books. Bella is perfect in every way. If anything, it's the descriptions, because you're in Bella's head a lot, are like, it's like, oh, come on. You just became a vampire and fine. Okay. Like you can avoid your family, but even like some stranger, what if that guy had fallen and splattered on the rocks below? Would she have eaten him then?
And also from that comes like the next question. If the person fell on the rocks and died, do you let the food go to waste? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you still eat them after that? I mean, they just died. It's not like you killed them, but they still have blood in them. It's like those people that like, they'll find like a fresh deer on the side of the road and you take the meat. I mean, technically
I
it's
know
just
people who've done that.
Yeah, I do too. It's like, I'm all for it. I'm like, well, I mean, it's just going to sit there and rot. You might as well take the 50 or 100 pounds of meat that you can get from it and eat for the next year. So we had to jump forward quite a bit in talking about the first thing, but for number 2, we are going back to the near beginning of the movie because we couldn't not mention Chuck Esme. No, but really though, like creepy, weird CGI baby. Why did they go that route? There's so many other routes they could have taken with this. It's uncanny valley shit. Like you look at it and you're gonna feel uncomfortable, man. Like,
I mean, even people who love these movies are like,
but funny enough, the OG Chuck Esme was actually a puppet that they decided was too creepy and then went with this monstrosity instead. Yeah. Apparently Chuck Esme was actually an internal nickname for the original puppet, but whatever. In my honest opinion, it still fits. And I saw the picture of the original puppet and I was like, oh Lord. I was like, no.
Somehow,
Yeah.
it's like somehow Palpatine came back.
Yeah.
Somehow they made it. I don't know, like they didn't make it worse, but they also didn't really make it that much better. The baby was on screen for like half a second in that, or a little bit longer, I guess. I just don't understand why they didn't use 2 or 3 different babies. A lot of movies and TV shows have done that because I know she ages super fast, but yeah, I guess because they needed the baby to be as young as it is and barely have its milk teeth in, and also be able to, it's not just a babe in arms, it's a baby who can like literally turn and and they couldn't. So I guess it makes sense why they had to do that. And also it was like, look at the leaps and bounds we've made in like projecting what they did with Leia in Rogue One, the de-aging of actors' actual faces and stuff. They didn't have that sort of technology back then. So I do get that. But
didn't they though? Didn't X-Men 3 already come out at this point? You saw what they did with Patrick Stewart in that one, right? They made him young. And that was honestly, it probably doesn't hold up too great today, but at the time that was done relatively well. I mean, that was really done well.
Yeah, X3 was what, 2006, I think. And
yeah, it was like 2006. And I remember them like kind of going on about that scene that they were like, man, they did it really good. And it was one of the better uses of that de-aging up until Captain Marvel. Yeah, at the time, up until they did Captain Marvel with Samuel L. Jackson, and then they did Indiana Jones, you know, and the Dial of Destiny or whatever. Those were the only times that de-aging really worked really well.
Yeah, all I know is I hate that part of the movie. Like whenever the baby turns and looks, I'm like, oh, here it is again.
Oh, that's a cutie. You know, it's like when your friend has a baby and you have to be like, oh, the baby is so cute, but it looks like this like wrinkled alien, you know, and you're just like, oh god, that's an ugly fucking baby. You know?
Yes. And I also, I'm not a baby person. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm sure if I'd ever had my own baby, I would have looked at its little face and been like, isn't this the most beautiful baby you've ever a scene, but
Yeah.
I don't really think most babies are meh. Well, no sooner does Bella meet Chuck Esme than we get to the third thing on our list, which is, you imprinted on my daughter. First of all, Bella is the way the line is delivered, the way she looks, the way she sounds is hilarious. It's like, okay, try hard.
Yeah.
But the scene where she finds out about Jacob imprinting on little raspberry, little, I can't even. Oh my God, little raspberry Kool-Aid over here.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty hilarious and honestly good beyond that weird line delivery. But it has to be a thing we hate because, why, yes, Bella, we all feel this way. We all think it's fucking that Jacob imprinted on, well, I mean, we all as in us and quite a few other people, but I know there's a lot of fans who feel differently. You do you, I guess, but it just, I don't know. Also, it's hilarious that Jacob has already nicknamed, rename me Nessie.
Yeah.
And Bella's like, you nicknamed my daughter after the Loch Ness monster. And yes, for sure, like, okay, really, you couldn't come up with anything better, but still, that is better than the baby's actual name. And then there's also that whole weird thing where Jacob is like, the reason you wanted me around so bad when you were pregnant was because of the baby in your belly. I mean, those aren't the exact words, but I'm sorry, lol what? And there are literally people in the fandom who are like, the reason why Jacob was so in love with Bella is because she was like carrying around I can't even say her. I can't say her name.
Fucking rigatoni.
Yeah, she's
carrying the fucking rigatoni.
Rigatoni Danza. The rigatoni Danza egg. And okay, that is like we shed eggs every month. She was not carrying that one egg around in her body the entire time.
No, exactly.
Okay, I guess I honestly don't know the exact number of eggs we have and whatever, but like the idea of her carrying around that one single egg and that was why Jacob was always in love with her that's creepier, honestly, than thinking that he just had an inappropriate crush that she kept pushing away and he kept insisting upon. But anyway.
Yeah, so I think that the imprinting part wouldn't have been as weird for Bella if Jacob wasn't a creepy kind of rapist vibe, okay, like on top of it, personally. Because these past movies didn't do any favors for Jacob whatsoever. I really thought it was going to be like an equal kind of thing when I walked into this, to where it's like, oh, because it's always been Team Jacob, Team Edward. And I'm like, I'm sorry, dude. Team Jacob is like, I'm sorry, dude. That is just coming on a bit strong that it I don't know. I don't think there was a this or that kind of person. I felt like whatever, when they wrote this, maybe we weren't supposed to like Jacob, or maybe we were, I don't know, but really creepy. And also the concept of imprinting, I just imagine Jacob turning into like a dog and then urinating all over Rigatoni. Like, I'm just sorry.
Also, like, what is with Jacob and bracelets? Does anyone else, including you obviously, find it weird that while it's not the same bracelet that the bracelet he gives to Root Vegetable later in the movie is not the same as the one he gave to Bella in Eclipse, but it just seems weird to me. Like, what is with you in bracelets? I guess it's better than I think if it was a necklace or like a choker, I would feel way weirder about it, because then it would feel like a collar. But I also hate things on my wrists. I also feel like in a way you could say that it's like reminiscent of handcuffs. And I know that's not what they're going for. Okay, I know that's not what they're going for, but it's a little bit weird to be like, I'm sorry, like you couldn't give little Root Vegetable something. I mean, I if it was like a loose necklace or something, I would have, or an anklet even. I don't know. Like she's gonna grow out of it no matter what.
Yeah.
So
I feel like this is one of those things where when Stephenie Meyer stole the entire Native American culture, you know, or whatever, when she created that they're like, what do? Well, they make gifts and they'll make bracelets because that's what they do.
Carved wooden wolf charms and woven bracelets. Yeah,
exactly. This is one of those classic, let's just say ignorant things where it's like, oh, well, that's what the savages do, right? They make bracelets from nature and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I feel like it's kind of fucked up there. Like, I get it. A bracelet is fine, but I don't know. I think she just like, well, what do Native Americans do when they give gifts to people? I know.
A bracelet is fine. It's just weird to me that he gave one to Bella when he thought he was or was in love with her, and now he also gives one to her daughter who he has imprinted on. It should have been a different gift. Give her a fucking rattle. I don't know. I mean, I guess she's too old for a rattle at that point, but give her an actual carved wolf, like not on a bracelet, like an actual carved wolf, something.
That would have been great. Yeah, that would have been
She's
great.
still a
Way
child at
better.
that point, even if she's like
Mhm.
wise beyond her years or whatever we're supposed to believe. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay, Lord God. Moving on to number 4. Jacob, put your clothes on. AKA, Jacob just turns into a shape wolf in front of Charlie. Like, for fuck's sakes, Jacob, did you think this through at all? Also, yeah, he really wasn't thinking of anyone but himself. Okay, maybe Charlie a little bit, but also not really, because he didn't think about what could happen to or with Charlie if he's around Bella right now. If anyone else finds out he knows things he shouldn't, yeesh. And also, side note, honestly, poor Charlie, he's been freaking out about what's been going on with Bella, and now he has to see a kid he's known all his life turn into a giant wolf and then go see Bella, who is not the daughter he remembers, and then surprises him with an adopted granddaughter. The fact that this guy hasn't had a heart attack, or at very least a fucking panic attack, my hat's off to him to at least not having a fucking panic attack. At this point, or you know what, not a panic attack, or at least didn't drink an entire bottle of whiskey after that conversation. He's just like, fuck, I don't even know what my life is anymore.
Oh, and he even says the baby has Bella's eyes. Like he knows
He
something
knows.
is totally wrong here. And he also saw his daughter like a month ago. So he knows that she wasn't pregnant enough to give birth to a full-grown baby that already has its milk teeth. And also, she was never away from him long enough to have been pregnant, given birth to a baby that looks. Yeah, it's poor Charlie. Also, yeah, Jacob. Jacob.
And I honestly feel like it was a little bit of bad writing or like consistency on the character, because he's a cop. And you see the way he is, and it's his daughter, and his daughter just goes up and he's like, bro, you're not asking questions, you're not kicking down doors. You best believe if that had been my kid, I'd have burnt down the Cullens fucking house in a second. It'd been like, well, now you're gonna give me some fucking answers, motherfucker. You could have just told me, but now you didn't, and now it's time to get your medicine. All right, it's as simple as that. I'm sorry, dude. I know that there's a little bit of a ferociousness there in Charlie there, and like, come on,
yeah,
dude.
we saw that
like,
speech he gave at the wedding.
oh yeah, dude, and it's like, that's funny because you came with all that good shit a second ago, and then now that Bella is actually gone, you're not doing anything to actually find her at all. You're just waiting for her to come back, and then you're trusting these fucking people. Oh no, she's fine. No, you're gonna get her ass on the phone right fucking now, or I'm going to go down there and I'm going to kill every single one of you motherfuckers until I get answers. That's what I would do for my kid, and I know for a fact that's what he would do for his kid. Okay, Stephenie Meyer maybe just didn't have that example set to her as, parent or whatever, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, Jacob just turning into a wolf, next to no preparation, and he's just stripping in front of him too. Honestly, though, again, props to Charlie for just the very matter of fact delivery of Jacob, put your clothes on. He's like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on here?
Again, this is just another scene that is a victim of not prolonging and stretching out this entire series. Yeah. It would have been fantastic if Jacob turned into a wolf under some extreme circumstance, to where it's like, oh shit, he's here, but there's nothing else I can do. And then it becomes this like kind of like great kind of scene where it's just like, oh, what the hell is that? And then they have the like exposition, and then they start talking about this, That's why I'm not, again, as much as I've taken like a nice heaping dump all over this fucking movie, it's not like I haven't come with solutions also, okay? It's not like I'm just shitting on it and saying it's just a piece of shit. I'm like, no, boo, let's make this better. Okay, like, let's just fix it a bit. Our relationship is a little messed up right now, and we just need a little therapy to fix it. And that's how I feel, because that's one of those scenes that I thought that would have been a really great reveal moment if it would have been done under the right circumstances. But again, I can't really blame the fucking studio or whatever. You can only blame the fucking producers or whatever. And I can't blame the actors or anything like that. But this would have been great if it was a build-up and then something extreme happens, and then you can spend the next episode with the awe of like, oh my God, I can't believe you're a dog too. And then they talk all day long about like, well, it's not a dog, I'm a wolf, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know, they like work through it,
Maybe Jacob tells him some of the tribal history and lore.
Exactly. They can spend time doing that, and it would be great. Like,
which also gives Bella maybe a little bit more time to be a vampire, even though she apparently doesn't need it.
She doesn't need it, but
well, we're getting close to our halfway point, so just gonna go with next up on Twilight TV. It's Pumping Up with Bella and Emmett, the informative vampire program for the seriously strong. There is not too much to say about this other than arm wrestling and rock crushing. Yeah.
Yeah, watch me break rocks.
I know we talked a lot of shit about the growly wolf conversation in our Breaking Down Part 1 episode, but this might be the dumbest thing in these movies. Did we really need this? What was this for?
It was bad. I thought about our little Paw Patrol scene when I was watching this scene in particular. However, I do think that the Paw Patrol scene is still worse, but this goes right there with it. To where I'm like, why are we wasting time with this? At least the other scene tried to do something with pushing stuff forward. This is part of a work, like they really should have had a 2-minute workout montage without any words or anything, and just play some Journey in the background or whatever, and then boom, it's like, okay, great. And now she has all her powers. It would have been better. But with this, with the arm wrestle, and then she starts breaking the rocks, it's like...
The rock breaking, it's just like, oh, it's just like pound, pound, pound. It doesn't even break immediately. She has to like pound it several times and you know, there's little pieces. It's like, you couldn't have done that. If you're going to have her break the rock as some sort of show of strength, then it should have been 1 pound and the whole thing falls into dust or something.
They could have done that scene in 10 seconds, right? Arm wrestle, she just grabs a guy's arm and pushes it into the rock, and the rock explodes as she puts it. Like, oh wow, that's it. But then punching the rock afterward, and like,
yeah, we also the punching the rock afterward is the dumbest part, honestly. Like, I could even deal with the arm wrestling a little bit, but we also spent the entirety of Eclipse learning about how newborns are so much stronger, and like, we need everybody to fight them, and we need to be smart about fighting them because they're newborn and they are so much stronger. Like, we already know newborns are super strong. In Eclipse, they talked about how, you know, even Emmett would have trouble with them. So why do we need to see it? It's just another way to show Bella off, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Fine, whatever. Fucking whatever, fine.
As we got further into the movie, we realized what our sixth thing we hate was, that being, what is this movie? Bella's journaling 101 assignment? She did some voiceovers in the previous movies, but it's like constant in this one. Show, don't tell people. Again, this is one of those things where like the less words say more. We've spoken about this many times when it comes to House of the Dragon, about how they nailed that so perfectly. This is the antithesis of that. Like, please hold my hand and explain absolutely everything.
Again, she did some voiceovers like this in the previous movies, but it was spotty, right?
Yeah.
In all of them. Even in Breaking Down Part 1, it was mostly like the quote at the beginning, and then sometimes you'd get some voiceover like insight or intel or whatever from her. But honestly, at the very least, they could have started in Breaking Down Part 1 with the whole thing where they're on the island and Edward is refusing to have sex with her.
Yep.
Have her doing a voiceover on that if you really want to start this shit now. But no, in this movie, she is writing her journal and reading it out loud to us pretty much 24/7. And I don't even think a lot of it was necessary.
No.
We get it. You're gathering witnesses. We get it. There's witnesses. You know what? There's witnesses. Did you know there's witnesses, Manny? There's witnesses. People are gathering witnesses. Witnesses. That's just one example of the overdoing of the journaling here.
Yep.
What are we on? We're on number 7 now. Everyone's obsessed, and I'm going to use her real name for some reason, with Renesmee.
Renesmee.
Even Aro, who eventually meets her, is obsessed with her. And listen, I get it. Really, basically, the entire plot of this movie only happened because of the fact that everyone is obsessed with the idea of ravioli over here, the idea of raspberry ice cream, the idea of roasted root vegetable. Like, people are still obsessed with Bella and her apparently all-powerful self-control and shield, but even she doesn't seem to hold a candle to little Ratatouille.
Yep, I get it.
Even the vampires that come and meet her. I mean, yeah, I get it too. I get it. This whole movie wouldn't have happened if everybody wasn't so obsessed with her.
Well, exactly, because it's like nobody's asking questions either. You know, it's just like, oh, she's clearly just a threat because of whatever fucking reason we just conjured up right now. And now we're just all gonna, I don't know, fight.
Well, and then when the ones who meet her realize she's not a threat, or that they can't see how she could be a threat, possibly in the future, whatever. When they meet her and they realize this, like you said, there's still no questions. There's no like, maybe we're supposed to understand that conversations about that happened like in the background, but like if you were a vampire who had lived hundreds or possibly thousands of years at this point, which I don't think any of the ones we meet except for the Volturi, some of the higher up Volturi have lived that long, but like hundreds of years. If you're a vampire and you've lived for hundreds of years, and this is the first time you've ever met a bebe who was birthed from a human and a vampire, wouldn't there be a lot more discussion about it? Not just the basic, like, well, we had sex and she somehow got pregnant and then she had a very difficult, very short pregnancy and almost died, and I turned her into a vampire at the very last second, and now we have this half immortal, half mortal. I just, instead we get, all we got was Edward Googling shit in the first movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Not any conversations, not any questions from people who are vampires, have lived as vampires, have never seen this before, and should have questions.
That's the thing. Like, I would have asked more questions before deciding to pull the trigger on whatever. Oh, we got to kill them, or we got to fucking fight, or we got to like do anything. Like, just figure it out. Get information. I don't understand.
Even if you decide immediately that, okay, yes, this baby, this child is worth protecting, I am way too curious. I want to know. I want to know all the theories. I want to know all the things. I wouldn't just accept, like, I would maybe accept her as being fine and not a problem. Like, she's clearly not an immortal child. Okay, that's great. But I would absolutely want, okay, fine, it's a movie. And if it had, like you said, if it had been a TV show, maybe they would have had more of that, but they don't in the book either.
No,
everybody
they don't.
just kind of accepts everything. And I know, I don't know. Nobody talks about how they've heard secrets or like rumors of things like this. No, it's just, this is the first time we've ever heard of this, and we're just accepting of it, and we're not going to question anything about it at all. Okay, fine, whatever.
Look, I'm probably in the wrong because I kind of have the unpopular opinion from the people I've spoken to that I feel like this needs to be rebooted into a TV series. And I feel like they can use the source material as best as possible, but the actual writers need to have more freeway to just add to it. Because I think that at its core, Twilight is not necessarily a bad series or a bad concept. Just the delivery is bad. And I feel like if they had a television series with this, we could have had 2 or 3 episodes with the, whatever those people are, the Valerians or Victorians, or I can't, whatever those fucking people are, trying to figure out what this baby was.
Valerians or Victorians?
Yeah, I can't remember what they were now. I just watched it 10 minutes ago. How do you expect me to remember?
I don't necessarily disagree with you that there are concepts here that are good, but I think that if anything were to be made, it would have to be so loosely based on the concept of the books, all the questionable shit. Can we fix all that? And Stephenie Meyer did at one point write a book called Life or Death that is all the characters gender swapped to try to prove that it's not misogynistic or something, because it would be the same way if they were gender swapped. And it's like, I have not read that one, despite the fact that I suffered through Midnight Sun. I actually did not know that Life and Death existed until well after I listened to Midnight Sun via audiobook, and I was like, I can't with this right now. Maybe eventually I'll find if there is a Life and Death audiobook, maybe eventually I'll find it and listen to it just to like complete my fucking torture. But
yeah, I couldn't imagine. No. On to the next one. Honestly, the end of this movie really bolstered our list, because after all the proof they give to the Valtori, of course we had to give one of those things we hate spots for this movie to Arlo's only the known is tolerable speech.
I'm calling him Arlo from now on.
Arlo, yeah. Arlo, sorry. Arlo. Yes, Arlo. I'll call you what I feel like I need to call you.
I mean, seriously, no, though, they gave them so much fucking proof about how little retriever pup over here. Like, they gave them all this evidence, including him actually reading her history and her showing him her history, and still he's like, oh, only the known is tolerable. Got to take out these Helens, guys.
Humans now have weapons that can destroy vampires? Yeah, they're called fucking rocket launchers. Because the way you guys are fucking killing each other, I mean, a rocket launcher can do that. I mean, a 12 gauge can probably do that shit. Humans developed that technology long ago at this point. It's more important ever to keep our secret. What if this vamp baby ruins it for us? I'm sorry, Arlo, but y'all are the ones hustling entire groups of tourists into your lair and murdering them. That's not exactly keeping a low profile, my friends.
No!
Like, I don't know what's wrong with this tour. Every time we send 40 people in, none come out. Now, we don't know what happens to them. Do they not have a certificate to run a tour? Permit to do that?
Like, maybe they have a vampire who has the power to make people forget. Because that's actually
we can write it off like that. Yeah,
that is actually a thing that I'm pretty sure all of the vampires in the True Blood universe can do, is they can glamour somebody into forgetting tons of shit. But the problem is, the more they do it, it messes up the person's head. There's actually a whole character that has a very hilarious storyline, both hilarious and then in the end kind of you learn sad storyline. because of how many times they've glamored her. But you might be able to make the people who see them go in forget and forget that this tour that goes into their lair, nobody ever ends up coming out of it. But what about all those people's families?
That's what I'm saying. You're gonna have to glamour a lot of fucking people. Because what if
Or
one of those
insurance.
people
What
had
about their insurance companies? What about their mortgage companies? What about their car payment companies?
Exactly. What about the cops with the missing persons report? How are you going to deal with that? You have citizens from other countries just vanishing in this place. And how often do you guys do this? Do you let like 5 or 6 tour groups come through and they're okay, and then you just randomly, okay, guys, it's dinner time. We're going to let this one go through.
But even if it's like once a year, that one line of people that we saw in New Moon, it's like 40 people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
So yeah, you're so worried about keeping, I mean, listen, the whole point of that speech is to show us that nothing they could show him is going to change his mind about, because what he really wants is he wants to take out the Cullens so that he can get Alice into his little, how you would think ever that Alice, our beautiful, lovely, wonderful Alice, would just forgive what happened and become part of your crew, like what, to save her. That is not Alice. That is not Alice.
Nope.
I refuse to believe that Alice would ever do that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that brings us to penultimate on our 10 things we hate about Breaking Dawn Part 2 list, which is something that could not be avoided. The Alice fake out. This is Alice's battle vision that turns out to be a big nothing burger.
Yep.
I do want to start out by saying this is like very Captain America Civil War of them, but then with these like not very large groups of people running at each other across this huge expanse. But then I realized after I made this note, I was like, wait a minute, no, I think it's Captain America Civil War. It's very Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2, because Captain America Civil War came out years after this. When was Civil War? Was that 2016,
2017, I think?
Yeah. And this came out in like 2012. So sorry, not sorry, guys, I guess. But that said, I will say that the battle that we see is actually kind of well done. Like as you're watching it, you think it's real, I think. And I want to get your opinions on that in a second, but I do want to get into the fact that as someone who read and did not like the books and only went to see the movies as a sort of joke, when the battle started, and especially when Carlisle died, and then it became such a bloodbath after that, I'm literally sitting there in the seats having drunk like a pint of bourbon mixed with a giant like movie theater Coke. Okay. I'm thinking, what did they actually make Twilight cool? Like they actually made things happen. People are dying. Awesome. I like some of these characters, but also fuck yeah, this is great. And then it turned out that no, they did not. The entire thing was like a made up in their heads action scene. And that just like made it even worse. Like it blew it for me.
Yeah. And I'm going to agree with you on that. The concept of what was done there, I don't necessarily hate. I like that concept, right? There was this movie that was from back in the day. It was a martial arts movie. It was called Hero, you know, with like Jet Li. And it was a very martial art thing, right? Where it's like they go and he sees the guy he's going to fight and he's envisioning the entire battle in his head right before the battle even starts. And I was like, okay, cool. Like this kind of makes me think of that. I thought that was cool. I didn't mind oh, wait a minute. It was all like, you know, she was just seeing the future or whatever. But again, I feel like it was just cop-out writing also because they didn't want to kill off anybody. And as for the children of Galactica as we're very used to main characters getting snuffed out. Again, here's another part of this movie where there's really no consequences to anything happening. And if there's no consequences to anything happening, then you're not gonna take it seriously. And this was one of those classic examples of that, to where it's like, if you're not gonna give us build up, then give us death. And whatever characters we did maybe you should kill them. Fuck, if they'd have killed Alice, at least they would have gotten a rise out of me, because I love her character. So if you wanted to get a rise out of me as a viewer, then you should have killed Alice, because in that way I would have been like, what the fuck, and oh my god. Because look, dude, hate is the closest thing you're gonna get to love, right, dude? That is the closest thing you're ever gonna get to. If you had gotten that out of me as opposed to just the mediocre blank stare I gave this entire movie and all the movies, hey, at least you sparked some kind of emotion out of them.
And I saw this movie for sure opening weekend. I think I saw it opening night. I'm pretty sure all of these opened on Thanksgiving weekend, and I saw them like, you know, back in the day, you'd have what they call Black Wednesday, where when you were young, you'd go to the bar, meet up with all your friends who'd gone away to school, but we're back for Thanksgiving for the first time in a while and whatever. Like, instead of doing that, because I had moved to South Carolina by this point, like permanently, and spent Thanksgivings here, didn't have, you know, high school friends to meet up with, and didn't really care to go out to bars to see a bunch of strangers getting wasted and patting each other on the back and shit. But even before that, like my sister, like I had said previously, my sister and I had made it a thing of going to see these movies together, like opening night, I guess. I'm pretty sure we always saw them the Wednesday of Thanksgiving weekend. And the theater was fucking packed, and you knew who the book readers were in that audience because people were like, oh, like people were freaking the fuck out. They were angry. Wow. I mean, gesticulating, gasping, crying, yelling for this like several minute long scene. And I'm over here sitting like, actually cool now. And then it's like a fake out and everybody else breathes a sigh of relief. And I'm over here like, God damn it. Again, the battle scene was actually really cool, and I don't necessarily disagree with them like doing it because otherwise there would have been zero actual action in this movie, but it still felt like just forced and contrived like most of these movies.
I think this battle scene fed into my concept of what I don't like about the dogs or the werewolves or whatever, right? Is that they had so many opportunities to really unleash feral style, and they just didn't. It was like, oh, we're just gonna wait here in the pack. So when one of them got killed, like I didn't care. I was just like, yeah, okay, you probably deserve to die because you guys clearly have no idea how to be fucking tacticians. Why did no one literally put grease all over the ice, wait for the vampires to come in, and then just sat back and set it on fire? Why didn't you guys take half of your army and put him into the trees? So that way when Lord Vladimir or whoever this guy comes in, you just hit him with flaming arrows all of a sudden. You guys did nothing to actually protect this. And I don't know, Bella, why did you bring Chucky to the fucking party also? She should have been gone. And these people are showing up and you're like, I'm just gonna put my baby front and center over here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was like, oh, we got to prove to them that she's not a threat. And then they didn't believe it anyway, so.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah. Okay, last but certainly not least, the last thing on our Breaking Wind Part 2 list, I'm sorry, Breaking Dawn Part 2 list, is nobody loves anybody as much as I love you. Blah, 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 lets her shield down and shows Edward the choicest bits of their history, and then we have to listen to them both gush about how no one else in history of forever or the entire future has ever been in love or will be in love. That scene.
First of all, the fact that she only shows him like the choicest bits is funny. Like there's a lot more that happened, and I guess maybe rose-colored glasses and all, but yeah. I guess crimson-colored eyeballs.
Again, maybe they should have used that montage for Bella just working out and lifting weights and learning her powers as opposed to doing it in this end scene. They could have done this end scene in 10 seconds and made it memorable, but it was like, no. And to me, it's like, you remember back in the old days, right? When you had the television shows and mid-season, they would have that one episode that was just like a flashback of everything that you remember those,
Yes.
That's
sadly.
what this felt like. Yeah. And it's like, dude, right there at the end, look, the ending of Star Trek Deep Space Nine had one of these where it was like a montage kind of scene of everything that had happened, but that was okay because it was the only time that it happened. It was for a short amount of time in the last episode, and it was kind of recapping 7 years of something, not 4 movies of something or 5 movies of something.
Which also literally only was like a year and a half of real time.
Yeah, exactly. So that montage thing was, it fell flat for me. I wasn't.
I mean that, and like, listen, I get it. When you're in love for the first time, you kind of believe like nobody's ever felt this way before. Nobody will ever feel this way again.
Yeah,
if it's a situation where like you're not supposed to be with that person or your parents don't like that person or whatever, it becomes a very like, they just don't know. They've never felt this way before, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get all of that. I'm not so far removed from, like, thank God I journaled. I journaled the shit out of my life, particularly in high school and college. Mm-hmm. And so I get it. I do. I actually do have memories that aren't just vague memories. I have my literal written words. Even if I do forget, I can go back and read them at any point. Yeah. But at the same time, it's just the way it's portrayed in these movies is like nobody has ever loved you. It's not. You guys have known each other like a year and a half, and now you are spending forever together, and that we're just supposed to believe that that's listen, forever is not a common thing. Relationships end, marriages end, and I guess maybe it's not the worst thing to show that sometimes things don't end, that sometimes things will last forever, but it's also unrealistic the way it is shown. And it's unrealistic in the timeline and how young they are. And just also Bella she literally says, no one has ever loved anyone as much as or the way I love you. And Edward's like, well, there might be one person. And it's like, fucking facepalm, man. Like I am Picard over here.
Yeah. The double facepalm, Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. But you're absolutely right. People, they fall in love and they just think that no one has felt anything like the way they're feeling. And it really just comes down to they never felt that. So they just think that, well, clearly no one has felt what I'm feeling now because what I'm feeling is so fucking special.
The thing is like you can put it off as it's YA or whatever, but also like we have the Hunger Games where there is a love triangle in the Hunger Games too, where Katniss has Gale, her childhood BFF, and he is in love with her, and she definitely has more than friend feelings for him at times, but she ends up with Peeta because he's the one that she ends up having things. And then Peeta also was in love with her from childhood and she never knew anything about him. But, and also even after the first Hunger Games, she's kind of like, oh God, Peeta, you're always around.
Yeah.
You know, then they're thrown together again and again and again. And she cares about him very much. And it's because of their shared experiences that they end up together in the end. And that is I'm sorry, but that is a more beautiful love story than Twilight.
Yes. Most love stories are better than Twilight.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to shit on the source material. Just give me a call, whoever owns the rights. Let's go ahead, let's sit down and we'll write a new script for it. And I promise you, it will be an actual hit.
I mean, these were a huge fucking hit.
No, but I mean like an actual legitimate hit. The YA people will love it and the fucking old ass motherfuckers will like it too. Okay, dude, everyone's going to be liking this shit. All right, dude, it's not even going to be called Twilight. It's going to be called like Twilizzle or something. You know, I'm just going to change it. Give it a little flair.
It's going to be set in a like Cayocho.
Exactly. It'll be a Cayocho. It'll be like, oh yeah, you know, fucking, of course I'm a vampire, bro. You know. Like,
well, they wouldn't be able to sparkle, I guess, if they're living in Miami.
No, bro. They're like, oh man, you're a vampire. Look at you bling, bro. You know, like. I know what it's like. I know how to write it, dude. All right, I was raised there. I know how to do it. I'm Cuban. I know I can do this. It's gonna be the Cuban Twilight, Twilightino. You know, it's gonna be, and the wolves, the vampires, would just be the Cubans and the Puerto Ricans. Is what it would be. You know.
Oh my God, it's West Side Story.
West Side Story, exactly. That's what it would be. Just for full disclosure, I'm Cuban Puerto Rican. Like I know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. I have no insight there. That's why this is all you. Just saying. Yeah. White person, white upon white.
All right, well, now that we've gotten through all of that, it's time to talk about our bling sites, aka any personal insights we gleaned while watching Twilight.
First of all, after Bella wakes up as a vampire and meets Renesmee, and then they go into their like little cabin in the woods that has been built for them, and Bella is basically like, how are we ever going to stop boinking? We don't have to sleep. We can go forever without eating too. Like, I don't know. You do have a daughter to raise, Bella.
Which, funny enough, well, I'm going to add that on my insight. I'm going to piggyback off your insight with my insight when you're done.
That's all I have to say. And I get it. Like in the beginning of a relationship, I know it's not the beginning of their relationship, but it's the beginning of their sexual relationship for sure. Because they had it twice on the honeymoon. Edward only allowed it twice, and then the impossible pregnancy and little baby Ratatouille happened, and
baby
Ratatouille happened over here. I get it. Like, how are we ever going to stop boinking? I don't know, maybe take care of your daughter.
And just to piggyback on that, that was going to be one of mine. It's that, are you guys the parents or not the parents? Because I don't see you guys doing any motherfucking parenting things. All I see you two is maybe some two super rich white couples that are just handing their baby off to the nanny, to your whole army of fucking nannies. Because all I see is other people holding your baby. It's so much so that when Edward holds the baby, it just seems awkward. Like, bro, where did you get that baby? It's not yours.
No, because Rosalie was like obsessed with the idea of this baby so much that she didn't give a shit about Bella living or dying or even becoming a vampire. Like Rosalie was like, give me that baby. And then Jacob imprints and he's like, give me that baby. And
yeah, exactly. Everyone wants to be the parents of that baby except for you two.
And that's actually also, I know there's a person, I'm sure she was originally TikTok, but I see her reels on Instagram and Facebook. Her username is like Corinne with a bunch of N's. Listen, if you're a Twilight fan, you probably know who I'm talking about. She's great because she was a huge Twilight fan, but she also like consistently recognizes the major flaws in the series. And one of the videos of hers that I saw recently, because she started popping up after we started talking about covering these, of course, because they're always listening.
Always listening, yep.
But yeah, so one of the videos was about like, they're not even parents. They don't really want this kid. Like everybody else is taking care of the kid. And I'm not saying they don't care about it or anything like that, but yeah, exactly. Then later on, there's a couple contrived scenes or shots. One of them is the contrived fireside scene. It's just like more forced convenience for some some of the vampires to tell their backstories. It's like, do we really need all of these backstories? Do we really care where half of these people come from we just met them a few minutes ago and like we're gonna know them for what, another hour before this movie ends?
Yeah.
I don't care. We don't need this fireside chat. Fucking Carlisle is FDR holding a fireside chat over here.
Yep.
And then just another contrived scene is the hilarious camera focuses on all of the couples just before the meeting with the Volturi, and then after the non-existent battle. Here's Lee Pace. What his character? Here's Lee Pace, an electric girl. Here's obviously Bella and Edward and Carlisle and Esme and Rosalie, and it's just the only ones who aren't there in the beginning are Jasper and Alice, and it's just like, really, guys, like we need to emphasize all of these couples because I guess you have to care about these people who most of them you have only met in this movie. Maybe a choice few you met them super super fucking briefly in Breaking Dawn Part 1,
and they're all separated in their proper cliques.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, these are these people from Brazil. These are these people over here who just showed up in this movie. These are those people over there, and it's like, guys, are you guys an army or like, what are you doing here?
Oh, don't even get me started on some of the vampires that are from basically most of the vampires who are POC are dressed in like extreme tribal gear and portrayed
I was waiting for the Cuban ones to show up. Like I expected them with like a cigar and the Castro hat and being like, oh yeah, with a plate of fucking like rice and beans, that's how they always fucking depict this in every fucking goddamn movie. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, those.
Oh, don't forget the rum. Don't forget the rum.
Oh yeah, don't forget the fucking rum either. Exactly. Like, come on.
But definitely cigars. Just
definitely
a whole.
Cigars.
Can vampires smoke cigars? Maybe that's why there weren't any Cubans, because they couldn't find a way to.
And Cubans are not going to be caught dead in the snow either. So it's like, nah, we ain't fucking. Like,
well, they can't feel it. They can't feel it.
They're down there.
They'd be like, sorry, we're down here in Cuba just sparkling. Like,
yeah. No,
nobody cares.
Like we like the sun and we sparkle. We keep the city like lit up at night, but that's it.
Question: why do almost all of the vampires, other than Bella and the Cullens, like even the other vegetarian ones, have this awful wide-eyed staring thing going on all the time? It's like, you guys does it have something to do with the contact? It might honestly have something to do with the contacts they had to wear, but they all look like perpetually shocked and awed.
Because they have to show off, they have to show off the red eyes. I just want to be sure you guys know.
But even the Denali's, the only one from Alaska who doesn't look like that is the one who dies. The one who gets killed because she gave false information, which is such bullshit because Aro saw what she saw. He knows exactly so she was mistaken. So like she gets fucking killed. That's nonsense because he knows that she saw what she saw and what she saw was fucking scary to her because of what happened to her mom with the immortal child and everything. I don't know. What about you? Any other bling sites?
Yes. One thing I was thinking about when I was watching this film, and this is no hate on Kristen Stewart, okay? But I'm just going to tell you about someone that Kristen Stewart reminds me of, who I felt could have brought a lot more energy. And yes, I'm biased because I absolutely love this actress, but I would have loved to have seen her in the role as Bella as opposed to Kristen Stewart. And that actress's name is Jenna Malone. Jenna Malone would have been able to pull this off, to have a similar look and a kind of almost a similar vibe. Jenna Malone is a little more unhinged, which is why I like her more, but I feel like she could have brought more emotion and more energy into this. I understand that they were working with what they were given, like these actors, but after watching Kristen Stewart in other movies, kind of the same vibe. So I would have liked to have seen a little more energy out of Bella's character. In particular, in this movie, because this is when you really see her go unhinged, right? And kind of be like, wow, this is one of those times that I felt like if you got an actress like Jenna Malone, she could have really made it more connectable as opposed to Kristen Stewart. Kristen Stewart is like, look, again, if you like her, that's great. I'm not shitting on her. I'm not an actress. I'm not an actor. Like, I have no idea what it takes to do those kind of things. But it's kind of like watching a cardboard box.
And to be fair, that's how Bella is written in the books.
That's how Bella's written. Again, maybe she just played the part great. And maybe this is more of a writing thing and less of an actor thing, but I'm just making that statement from the other movies I saw Kristen Stewart in to begin with, so that's why I'm making that. And I get it. Maybe that's her like acting niche. I'm not saying she's a bad actor. I'm just saying that maybe that's her thing, and like, okay, that's perfectly great. It just felt like a miscast for me. in particularly in this movie, because I thought about Jenna Malone and I was like, Jenna Malone should have been Bella throughout this entire series. I felt like it would have been more memorable than what it is.
It's okay to have a niche. Listen, as somebody who acts, like, I've been cast in a bunch of different roles, and the ones that I think I've done the best at and have enjoyed the most are more comedic leaning. I don't think I'm a funny person. It's supposedly, I've been told I'm funny. I don't think I'm that funny, but
I think
like,
you're funny. Yeah.
but the roles, like both in musicals and in plays that I've enjoyed playing the most and that I think I've done the best at were more like comedic leading roles. So
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay to have a niche.
Totally
I mean,
fine.
and Jenna Malone, she's what's her name in Hunger Games? Now I'm blanking on her name, even though I just rewatched those kind of recently. But yeah, she's in Hunger Games. She's great in Hunger Games. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with Kristen Stewart in this role because, like, honestly, like I said, Bella is kind of written as like a cardboard box. She has all the Mary Sue like qualities and tendencies, but with this complete lack of personality. Like you're supposed to be able to like place. I think the idea, whether it's meant to be there or not, is that you're supposed to be able to place yourself in Bella's shoes. Like she's in every person, you know, and every woman or every girl, you know, essentially. But or you would
what do
like
they call that? It's the story surrogate, is what it is. It's a story surrogate. Yeah, I can't put myself in her shoes. I can't. There's many movies that I can do that with characters. I felt like Kristen Stewart in this role was just a placeholder for, okay, this is female 001 and she is the main character and this is what she's supposed to do.
The only other blings I had is it seems like a really bad idea to let the super powerful Volturi know about the fact that they can essentially procreate with humans. I know that the Cullens, Bella and Edward in particular, didn't really have much of a choice to keep Rename Me alive and themselves safe and alive as well. But I shudder to think what the Volturi, or at least some members of them, might do with this knowledge. And then I was like, oh, well, the series is over. Anyway, let's all go home now. Or is it? Because apparently for years, Stephenie Meyer has talked about writing more books in this universe. And she has 2 new Twilight universe books outlined. And I'm just like, oh. And like Midnight Sun was just a retelling of Twilight from Edward's perspective, and Life and Death was just a gender swapped version of Twilight. Fine, whatever. They seem like cash grabs to me, but okay, you do you, girl. But like, yeah, apparently these are like future books that aren't told from like Bella or Edward's perspective. Or I heard maybe Renesmee would be involved, but I don't know. I still think it's a bad idea to give the Volturi all of this information and then just feel like, okay, bye guys.
Bye guys. See ya.
Because Aro is very interested in this half immortal child, you know, and yes, he gives his stupid speech about, oh, only the known is safe. But then he sees the other immortal child who is full grown now and has lived for like, he says 150 years. And he's been hiding with these tribes in Brazil. So no humans know, like nobody knows about him except for his aunt who raised him. And he made her immortal after she like took care of him, like good for them. And he survives on blood and also like human food and blah, blah, blah. He's not hurt anybody. No laws have been broken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, okay, so now they know that this is possible. And I just don't know that good things might not come of this. I don't know.
The last one I'm going to bring up is kind of a missed opportunity. This one's a little more like bias on my part and a little more whatever on my part. So Valerie Curry was in this movie, okay, as Charlotte. She was one of the girls in the background with the short hair, one of the vampire things. I don't think she says a word in this fucking film. She was in my favorite narrative video game ever made, which was Detroit Become Human. She plays a character as Kara.
I know. Yeah.
So she plays the character of Kara.
Camden loves that game.
Yeah, I absolutely love that game. When it comes to a narrative-based game, that is my all-time favorite game. And I do remember her being in this, but I'd completely forgotten about it until I saw her face. Because if you've played the game, they modeled the character, like the 3D character, off of Valerie Curry, and they did a fantastic job. Because they look identical. So when I saw her face, I had flashbacks of when her character got killed during my playthrough. So it was so nice to see her again. And I got very pumped watching this movie and I saw her show up. I was like, oh, okay, shit. Because the only things that have really had me pumped in this movie has been Alice. I've loved Alice from start to finish. She was a fantastic character, fantastic actress. Like I wanted more of Alice. So to get to see Valerie Curry show up as Charlotte, I was very pumped about it. And I fucking hated that she didn't say a word, had nothing to do with anything. She was literally just some vampire's girlfriend. And I felt like that just did a fucking disservice on her. But again, this is me just ranting. I'm just being biased about it because I like her because of Detroit Become Human.
Well, I mean, you're right, though. She was just some vampire. But also her boyfriend didn't really say much at all either. So
they were just filler. They were just filler people.
They were, I'm sorry, they were filler witnesses. Were they witnesses? Do you think they were witnesses? Maybe they were witnesses. Were they witnesses? I don't know. Witnesses? I wonder if Bella's journal has like a cast of characters that she has to like keep up with. You know? Here are all our witnesses with like a list.
Witnesses. Yes.
Witnesses. All right. What is your Sparkles rating of this movie? 1 is the worst, 10 is the best.
I'm gonna go with a 4. I don't think it was as bad as the first one. Again, I think I give it a 4 because I could see the potential behind it. Because in my brain, I'm rewriting it as I'm watching it to where like, okay, this is what I would do. This is what I would do, and I would have this. Not that I'm necessarily changing the foundation of it. I'm not changing the foundation. I just feel like this movie was given an unfair disadvantage on just being a second part of a finale movie. To where I'm like, even though the first one was full of bloat, I felt like they should have bloated this movie into 2 movies. And I think as a whole, maybe I wouldn't have liked sitting through the second bloated movie like I did with the first one. However, as a whole, I might have appreciated it more to where I was like, okay, well, there was a lot more buildup. There was a lot more stuff going on here to where like, yes, each movie on itself feels kind of bloated, but all of it together actually has a good arc, and it, you know, and I think it could have went good. So that's why I'm giving it a 4. I'm not going to completely shit on it, which honestly, I'm going to say, I think you and I have done a really good job throughout this entire series that we haven't completely fucking went irritable bowel syndrome all over it. I definitely think that we can find all the good in a lot of these like kind of mishaps throughout these movies.
A little bit of good.
There's a little bit of good. There's, let's just say, potential. I think we can both see that there's a lot of potential in these films, which is why I feel like it should get rebooted and done into a television series.
That is only very loosely based.
Very, very loosely based. We're going to take just a few pages out of each book and build from that.
I think I'll give it like a 3. There's just a lot of the constant Bella voiceovers, and this isn't like Bella hate. This is just voiceover hate, show don't tell. And also the fake out battle scene, like to this day, I'm still like, I get why they did it. But again, for a second, I was like, oh, it's gotten exciting. And then it wasn't. And then it just was back to ye old, nobody dies. Like nobody even really gets hurt because they're all stone ice vampires or whatever the fuck they're.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring up a movie here and I'm going to tell you why this ending was actually okay for me. There was a movie that Emilio Estevez was in. It was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a movie that he was in, and it's like some guy who was kind of like down on his luck or something like that. So he goes off and he becomes a bank robber, where he's just like robbing banks and all this stuff. And I think he gets killed at the end or something like that. And it was a really well done movie. It was a really good, like, just build up and all this kind of stuff. And the movie ends with him where the movie began, with him getting into his bathtub and taking a bath. The whole thing was a dream. It wasn't real. But there was something about the way that it was done that was done so well that when I watched that thing, that's why it's like I didn't completely hate it. I don't think it was delivered great, but honestly, I didn't hate it. I thought it was fine. Last but not least, what is your watch, read, play, please, anything but this suggestion for this episode?
I'm gonna go with 2 things because it depends on what you like. Preacher is a good show that has a vampire in it who does not immediately like burn up in the sun as long as he's like covered. And the vampire is one of the main characters. He's there, and he also can eat things other than people. So there is that aspect to it. And then also just the Interview with a Vampire TV series is good. It's only got 3 seasons, 2 seasons. I think it's 2 seasons now. I maybe it's 3. I can't remember. I've watched all of it. I can't remember how many seasons it has. It's way better than the movie that came out in the 90s. Interview with a Vampire TV series. Those are my suggestions.
I haven't watched True Blood or Interview with Vampires, like the newer series. I watched the movie, the old one. I didn't like it. So I would definitely recommend, even though I have not watched it, I would recommend just jumping into other vampire stuff. Don't let this movie ruin, because in the end,
that's what I did. Yeah. I let it ruin vampire stuff for me for a long time.
Because in the
not the movie, the books. but
Yeah.
same thing.
So what this movie did for vampires in the sense of it, of being like the vampire aspect of it is just like a sub thing. It's just as much as in Walking Dead, the zombies are a sub thing. It has nothing to do with zombies. It has to do with the social climate of the people who are dealing with that situation. And I feel like Twilight does the same thing. If you want to watch something that's actual like vampire stuff, bro, go watch Bram Stoker's Dracula. Go watch, I'm sure, True Blood or Interview with a Vampire or Underworld or something else that is more focused on that vampire genre as opposed to this. This is literally just using vampires so they can make a really bad love story or whatever, right? Just as much as like Walking Dead, you know, like I know, like, look, Walking Dead has great social aspects, but that is, I feel is, even though I only went through 2 seasons of Walking Dead, but just from watching it, I can see that they were more trying to make like a social statement of how people are going to react to this situation.
Oh yeah, for sure.
As opposed to it just being like the vampires are the catalyst, the zombies are the catalyst. Everything that the meat of the story is not there. And I feel like that's what this did. So if you like vampire stuff and you went here to watch vampire stuff, then we understand you're disappointed. We have a bunch of other things you could watch that are more vampire.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Yeah, that would be my my recommendation.
My God, we have reached the end of our Twilight episodes. Do you have any last thoughts about these movies that you, for the most part, watched for the first time?
I did, because I had only watched the first one way back in the day. So everything else was brand new to me. And I will say this, 16-year-old Manny would have ate this up. He would have loved it. Okay. He would have probably walked around dressed like Edward for the next 5 years. So I can't take a complete shit on it. If I'm going to take a shit on anything, I can look at myself in the mirror and take a shit at myself, right? So like I understand why people got into this.
Oh yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like I totally get it.
Teenage me absolutely would have.
Absolutely. And if you still like it today, it's probably because it's nostalgic for you. So boo boo, keep watching it and keep loving it, you know, and just enjoy it. I personally think that everything needs a little bit of an upgrade sometimes, and I would love to see a Twilight reboot made into a television series to where we can get more into the history of the characters and more of build-up of the characters. And I really feel like it can make a much stronger impact outside of just the emotional teenage angst thing, and maybe could be an actual series that would be very viable for like the adults and stuff, and people will be like, fuck, that's a fucking great fucking series. And I would love to see that happen. It's probably not, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, especially because like I keep saying, I think that they would have to be only loosely based on the books, like kind of like Interview with the Vampire is. Also, Interview with the Vampire came out really well, even despite being like way more loosely based on the book. So I don't know, just saying. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our final Media That Made Us Cringe episode for the Twilight series. Maybe possibly ever, who knows? We'll see on Breaking Dawn Part 2. Make sure to check out our other Geek Saga show series, including Media That Made Us, 90s and Naughties Cringe Factor, the impulsive hyper-focused solo episodes, and more. And please do not forget to like, subscribe, or rate us 5 stars wherever you're watching or listening. And as always, we would love for you to consider supporting us by backing our Patreon at patreon.com/geeksaga_entertainment.